Greetings, Ben. I'm Fabian. I have a secret club. I want you to join.
Sure, sounds cool. But who is in the club?
Many of your friends are members. Our adult sponsor is George Soros. He's rich and gives us money for cool schemes.
What scheme will I get to do?
We think you can help collapse the world economy. If you can do that, then we can spawn a socialist revolution and rule the world as a dictatorial oligarchy.
Oh, that would be so totally cool.
But how?
Guns. Lots of guns and an army of gullible liberal arts students commanded by community organizers.
Maybe. But as Fabian socialists, we want to subvert and conquer through government regulation and stealth. Only once the society is crippled and defenseless will we employ violence to suffocate the last breaths of freedom.
Okay then, it's simple. We just need to make a huge malinvestment.
What do you mean?
Bad investments always collapse. If we make it big enough, it will drag down the whole economic system and we can rebuild according to our dreams.
But how can we make it that big? It must be humongous.
We must involve almost everyone. We need to use the US government to do it.
Okay, step 1. Get jobs in government. But what should the malinvestment be?
What is the biggest investment of most Americans?
Their house.
Bingo. Americans put all their savings into houses and even go into debt to pay off the rest over decades.
I'd rather do a stock bubble. G-Span knows a lot about stocks.
Okay, you and G-Span do your stock bubble, but then we get to do houses.
Deal. So how do we cause a huge malinvestment in housing?
Well, first we have to get money into the banks so they can lend it to the people to buy houses. A lot of money to a lot of people.
But where do we get the money for the banks? We don't have that much money. Even the government doesn't have that much money.
The American people have money.
Wait a minute. You want the people to give money to the banks so the banks can give money to the people to buy houses? If people wanted houses, why wouldn't they just buy houses with their money in the first place?
Because they choose to spend a lot of their money to buy food, gas, and supplies.
So then they won't have the money to buy houses anyway. Maybe you are too dumb to be in our club.
Americans won't have the money anymore, but the people they buy from will.
But gas comes from Arabs and the supplies from Walmart come from China, so foreigners get a lot of the Americans' money.
And that, Fabian, is the key. We get the foreigners to give the money to the banks for mortgages.
How do we make Arabs and Chinese give money to banks? And if they do, how can we ensure the banks use it for mortgages? And how can we ensure Americans will want all those mortgages?
That's why we need to work in government. That government agency power can force anyone to do anything.
But we can't order Chinese to give money to our banks.
Okay, look, this is easy. Many pieces are already in place. Foreigners get dollars by selling us crap. They need to put the dollars somewhere. They prefer to recycle them into low-risk investments like US Treasuries. What if we make housing bonds seem risk-free but pay higher interest than treasuries? Which would you choose?
But how can they pay higher interest if they are not higher risk?
Of course they are higher risk, but if we imply that the US government will back the bonds yet we don't put it in writing, they will seem risk-free but can still carry a higher interest rate.
So if Chinese and Arabs put their money into housing bonds to get a better rate, won't everyone do it? Won't that drive down rates to just slightly over treasuries? Then they won't be so attractive.
That is okay, it helps build our bubble faster if everyone jumps into housing bonds. We just need to maintain a small rate premium over treasuries.
But if the spread is so low, how will anyone care?
We will also keep treasury rates very low. Then even a small spread looks large in percentage terms. If treasuries pay 3% but housing bonds pay 4%, then the 1% spread is a 33% higher return. They will jump at that.
Great plan. Every time an American buys crap at Walmart or Exxon, their cash eventually gets funneled into the housing market. Much of their pay already goes to house payments, and now almost everything else they spend will be funneled there too. Now I see what you mean. That really will be a massive malinvestment. Trillions in misdirected investment. Wow.
Yep, Mispricing the risk premium of an asset is a great way to distort the market for that asset. Having control of the U.S. government and making implicit promises to back mortgage bonds will let us do just that for housing.
How exactly will that work?
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac already back 50% of the nation's mortgages. People think the government backs Fannie and Freddie bonds. Fannie and Freddie are supposed to only back mortgages that meet certain criteria. What if we relaxed criteria, or ignore the criteria, and incentivized the managers at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to suck in as much of that Chinese money as possible so they could grow without limits?
So we used Fannie and Freddie as the mechanism to distort the risk-return profile on mortgages. We encourage them to expand this mispriced asset base beyond all safe limits, and thereby suck all the Chinese and Arab money directly into the U.S. mortgage market. Brilliantly bubblicious.
Here's the best part. By blocking regulations that limit Fannie and Freddie's growth, we allow them to use their government backing to outcompete the 50% of the mortgage market not already under government control. Their access to unlimited funds guarantees they win because no private firm can responsibly hold on to risky loans paying such low rates. And we control the market, so we set the market rates. If a private company makes a loan, they will have to sell it to us or to one of the investment banks who will bundle it with loans we back.
So we take over the entire mortgage market by exploiting the unfair advantage we give to Fannie and Freddie. And we create a humongous malinvestment in the process.
Exactly. It won't happen overnight. At first, mortgage companies will be resistant to writing mortgages that are unsupported by income or home values. But if we continue to back low-rate mortgages for high-risk borrowers, what choice will they have? If they don't write the mortgages, the guy next door will. Their choice will be, make crappy loans and sell them to us, or be responsible, write no loans at our artificially low market rates, and watch their business die. For as long as they can flip the loans based on U.S. government backing, they will write crap loans. They are forced to if they want to stay in business.
Cute. Essentially, we become the buyer of only resort through Fannie and Freddie.
Yes, who else but us would back a risky loan to an illegal alien that only pays 4%? No one in their right mind would do that. But we will do it with Chinese money by leveraging promises of government backing and thereby swallow up the biggest market in America.
So then, all these private mortgage bankers are transformed into nothing more than commission employees of the government-backed agencies, Fannie and Freddie.
Yup. They'll be our little puppets in building the biggest, most disruptive financial bubble ever. Ultimately, when the bubble crashes and we collapse the economy, we can blame the whole collapse on them. We can put mobs in the street to condemn their greed and demand that government seize all power.
I think this is the most beautiful plan ever. But what if some banks won't make the loans to risky borrowers? How will we place all that Chinese money?
Oh, they'll make the loans. We'll make them make the loans. If they refuse, we'll say they are discriminating against the poor or against minorities. We can punish them if they refuse. Uncle Carter gave us that power already in the Community Reinvestment Act. We could even encourage banks to accept Mexican ID cards. Imagine how dramatically this bubble will burst when it is supported by the financial integrity of illegal aliens. Besides, don't worry, like I said before, if they do not make these insane loans at our ridiculously low rates and lax standards, then they will lose business and have to shut down. At least by partnering with the government and creating this bubble, they can hope to live another day. We own their sorry asses.
What if no one wants to borrow to buy a house?
Once we start this, house prices will skyrocket. Everyone will want to get in on the action. No way they will turn down free money to buy an appreciating asset. We just have to make sure we have lax enough mortgage rules that we can suck in everyone and make this bubble as big as possible before it collapses. If we are the government, we will have the power to do it.
But what if others in the government see the danger and try to stop us?
We call them racists and say they just don't like poor people owning houses. That will shut them up.
Ben, you are hereby named Chief Strategist of our Fabian Socialist Club. Henceforth, you are a full-fledged member of Fabian's Woolly Wolf Pack.
I'm humbled, honored, and ready to do your bidding to destroy America.
Great, but careful with your language in public. Instead of saying destroy, we'll call it fundamental transformation so the masses don't figure it out until it is too late.